I thought one of the things that kind of they celebrated a little bit today from Mike on down was just how proud they are to have really ingrained and built a culture that is now owned by the players and helps them build upon the successes year over year. That seemed to resonate with me. What else resonated with you?
Yeah, I think, clearly Mike Norvell wanted to hammer home the point also that this is not a team. There's a lot of attention on the newcomers, especially the transfers, because they're at some marquee positions. But it seemed like he wanted to hammer home the message that, we also return a bunch of guys, a lot of guys at key positions, a lot of guys who maybe didn't start in the past, but they're guys who have played a lot of football, and now maybe they're moving into a starting role, maybe they're moving into a leadership role. But this isn't necessarily a team that's really even reloading. It's more like just continuing the next step of their journey. So I think, and, talking to coaches on both sides of the ball, I kind of got that sense. They feel very confident that there's no, starting over really at any position. I guess certainly wide receivers probably one. You'd make that argument. But even there, they kept pointing to the Kentron Portiers and the guys who've been in the system for a long time.
Yeah, you asked that question specifically, and he said that, look, I mean, we had 24 guys that were active last year defensively. We played a ton of guys, AZ, Fintrell, Shaheem, Farmer, Peyton, Lundy, Djax. He talked about a lot of guys. And as he did that, as he went through the litany of guys, I kind of thought, well, damn, he's right. All those dudes played a ton.
Yeah, they did. And really, and he's talking about the offense. He pointed out that, usually offensive line is the position you're most concerned about when it comes to continuity when you're bringing in new guys. I think, going back to, I remember Jimbo Fisher used to talk about the guys further away from the ball, meaning physically on the field. It's usually easier to get them involved in a new system than it is the guys close to the ball, which is the lineman and maybe the quarterback. And, so yeah, you've got some new faces at wide receiver on offense. You've got some new faces, some of the skill positions. But the offensive line's got a lot of guys who play a lot of football, and then even in the backfield, Lawrence Toafili and some of those guys. So, yeah, it's probably there's more continuity than we probably realize because we do hyper focus in the offseason on a lot of the transfers.
And that continuity, as he pointed out, includes having the exact same staff come back, right? I mean, yeah. He was proud of that, happy about that. Guys turned down positions at other places to come back here because he likes the thought of where this thing is building towards. I thought it was interesting when you asked him about whether they'll have to take it a little bit slower, in particular because you're breaking in a new quarterback. But he did say that he wants to push them there, and he wants to make the quarterbacks, amongst other potential starters, he wants to make them uncomfortable.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting, too, the way he talked about that. Almost like we're not just trying to set them up for success. They need to fail, and that's how we're going to find out what they really need to work on during the rest of the offseason. In some ways, spring football it's important, and it's important for a lot of reasons. But one of the things is it really creates the opportunity for them to know what they need to work on during those months between the end of spring and then August when camp starts. Well, I guess this year in July when camp starts, but really gives them an idea of what they need to work on. And so, yeah, if you just kind of set it up to where they can have success and get confidence, you're probably not going to find out everything you really need to work on.
Going back to something you mentioned that he alluded to at wide receiver and where it's perceived that, you're breaking in guys, but I thought it was important that we weren't surprised to hear him mention Destin Hill. We were not surprised to hear him mention Hakeem. Of course, he led the discussion by talking about Kentron and saying that he wanted to see him take another step. I thought that was interesting to specifically call him towards the you need to take another step conversation because that's in there. He wouldn't say that if he didn't believe it, right? We saw glimpses of it throughout his career, including in the bowl game most recently, where he was one of only a couple of players where you could be excited about the way they played against Georgia. But he also mentioned, Ira, and am I reading too much into this? He also mentioned Vendravius Jacobs. Maybe that young man is taking a step, and I'm excited to hear it.
I know you are. I know we all would be.
Yeah.
I mean, certainly those old guys, the focus is going to be on them right now. Kentron and Darion Williamson and some of those guys who have been around for a long time, Ja'Kai Douglas, to step up and be leaders. But also, Vendravius was the guy we thought, based on last spring, was going to make an impact in the fall, and that never happened. Well, it's not like it would be a time to panic if it doesn't happen this year, but there's nothing saying it can't happen this year. They have wide open positions. And so, yeah, Justin Hill, Hakeem Williams, even some of the younger guys, I think, Jalen Brown transfers in from LSU. And, he didn't play much at LSU, but he's a guy that was super talented too. So, yeah, I think all the focus is on Malik Benson, rightfully so, because he's got the biggest name, the biggest pedigree. But there's wide open competition for those young guys, and you want to see them take it.
I guess I'm kind of wondering we'll all get to see it. Start tomorrow. We'll all be out there. It'll be exciting. I guess. How do you envision? I want to get your kind of projections before the first snap of camp happens. How do you think we are going to be describing DJ Uiagalelei at the end of this camp? What do you think we're going to say about him when this is all said and done through spring?
It's a good question. I think we're going to feel. I think there's going to be some confidence about him, but I think it's going to take a while to kind of get a feel for exactly, how he's being used. Like we had so much time with Jordan Travis, going back 4 years, and so we saw his development kind of take place over time. So with DJ, I think it's going to be interesting, and that's kind of why I asked that question. Is like, is he going to have the full playbook? Is it going to be scaled down? Is it going to be, is he going to be, obviously he's going to take a lot of shots with that big arm, but is he going to be asked to really use the whole field right away, or is that going to develop over time? I think we're going to feel good about it, but I can't imagine we're going to come out of the spring thinking, okay, this guy's going to pick right up where Jordan Travis left off. I think those 3 or 4 months between the spring and July are probably going to be a big deal for him too.
Yeah, I think I'm going to have questions too. I agree with you. I think we're going to see a lot of good things, especially with the big arm and the speed that they have at receiver now. But I think we're going to have days where we go, ooh, man, a lot of work here. But that's okay, because then we have to remind ourselves that that's what spring is for, right? That's what's kind of what Mike was talking about.